Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I am Kim.
I'm Tia.
And as always, I'm going to start with our quote, and it's a super good one. They're always good quotes, but I really like this one today. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. I would still plant my apple tree. That's by Martin Luther.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. So we were talking before recording, Tia and I, and just, you know, this whole idea of letting go of expectations, letting go of outcomes, not attaching to outcomes. And that's really, really hard. Let's just start out by saying that's really hard to do, right?
Yeah,
We're
definitely.
so conditioned. We are so conditioned for achieving, getting outcomes, and that's just the way most of the world
Yeah,
is.
from little things to big things. It's not
From
just big things we're talking. It's little, just something
Yep,
simple as, oh, I expect my kid to put their plate in the dishwasher.
I know.
Maybe little stuff.
Even little things like that, exactly. All the way on up to, as we were talking, we are post election day right now,
Yep.
and the entire world is watching, waiting to
Yep.
see who the next president of the United States will be for 2020. And,
Hopefully we'll know by the time this is, I mean,
yes, I know by
this
the time
is,
it comes out.
yeah,
That's right. We're
but maybe
pre-recording.
not. I'm letting
Yeah,
go of expectation.
exactly. Exactly. So just like this quote says, that even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, and many people feel that, depending on the outcome of the election, that the world might go to pieces, and we are still in the midst of coronavirus. We still have had record-setting days for a number of positive cases. And it can feel like the world is going to pieces. And nonetheless, how do we stay in that space, right? Yeah. Stay in that space of neutrality, equanimity,
Yep.
and still plant our apple tree. Like, to still have the hope, to still have the joy with life
Presence.
and presence, to just still live our lives fully.
And knowing, I think there's that other part of knowing that regardless of whatever the outcome is around the election or whatever you're thinking about that you want to go a certain way, maybe in your family or work or however it is, regardless of that outcome, you should still be living your life the same way.
Yeah.
We can make conscious choices how we want to respond to an outcome. But regardless of what that outcome is, you're still who you are if you are in touch, removing your masks, recognizing your authentic self, when to speak up, when to stay quiet. Just
Yeah.
plant that apple tree. I just love that because it's for now and for future generations.
Absolutely. And I like that you bring that point up, because I think that a lot of it is because we're so not taught to go inward, like you said, to just be like really connected to our authentic selves. And so you and I are always talking authenticity, but because we're not connected to our authentic selves, that makes us go outward.
Exactly.
Right?
And influence us.
An influence. So we're always looking for the outcome. And, even in relationships, like you said, if I speak up, why am I speaking up? Am I speaking up because it feels right to me, it feels authentic, and I need to honor myself? Or am I speaking up to someone because I want to manipulate them, or I want to,
change their mind,
prove a point, prove myself right, be self-righteous. I can be self-righteous at times.
I think everybody can.
I know, I definitely can have that tendency to be self-righteous. I know, I'm right. But even there, like, if I'm right, then the other person is wrong.
But are they? And are we?
Right, exactly. Exactly. That's my point, because as long as I'm in that space of I'm right, the other's wrong, there is that separation.
Exactly.
And that's what we're feeling, that separation and divisiveness in the country is. So it's really, Yeah. It's, how does it show up for you in your life?
I
This
mean,
whole quote.
yeah, I mean, obviously, right now with the election, I mean, I have to say I've really been practicing all of the tools in my toolbox. I'm not focused on the outcome. I mean, it sneaks in. I'm like, ooh, I check the numbers. I'm seeing, what are we down to, 4 states or whatever that really are they're waiting on numbers. So, I mean, I'm still involved. I'm still aware, but I'm not to the point where, okay, if who I voted for does not win, it's not the end of the world. Like okay, so there's going to be our own things are going to show up differently, whichever way it goes. But the bottom line is, am I living my truth? Am I creating connections and relationships? Am I doing the inner work? It doesn't matter who wins. I still have to come back here and be an activist from my inner truth. So it doesn't mean I just lay back, so it's showing up for me that way. It's, am I in the here and now? Am I being authentic? And then I can make the choices moving forward and remembering, we were talking about this before. I do as best I can not to be either or, you or versus them. It's both and, because each perception of any situation, they have their own reasoning why they're on their side, little air quotes. But remembering, like, okay, so why would that person have that perception? Why is it different than mine? What was their experience? And we talked about, we all have this inner child within us. And so there's pain there, so if we're hating on another person, it's because there's pain that we haven't resolved and integrated.
It's looking, exactly. And looking at what are the root causes underneath the behaviors that are showing up as well. And seeing that. Yeah, I know. It's really, I want to just underscore and emphasize that it's easier said than done not focus on the outcomes and to not attach to outcomes.
Right.
And again, it's an and it is a practice that we're all invited to tap into.
Yeah.
Because so as I was sharing with you with my daughter, as she was getting really, really upset about different Trump supporters and so on and so forth, and she is so attached to the outcome of this election. She's so attached, and not just she, so many people, right?
Right.
But what I noticed within her, and that I noticed within myself throughout a majority of my life, is how much angst she had inside her. She's so like uptight, wound up, so upset, angry, and the outcome hasn't even happened yet. And she's already fired up, flared up. I can't imagine what she and millions will be feeling after we get the answer.
And so far in the future, like if this happens, then that's going to happen. That's going to happen. But we don't know if that's going to happen. We don't
know. And just like you said, even if Biden becomes the president for that doesn't mean that's going to be any better. Or if Trump is going to be the president, we don't know. We don't know any of that. We don't know anything about coronavirus. We don't know anything about post-election. And that's where it's so hard, right? That's where our vulnerability comes up, because as Brene Brown always says about vulnerability, it's emotional risk, but it's also about being okay in the uncertainty of life. And I think that's really what we're wanting to highlight. That, like, it was taking me a while to get to what I was really feeling with this episode, but it is the uncertainty of life.
And that's so uncomfortable for people, because they want to be in control and know everything that's going to happen. But if you're honest with yourself, we'd never know what's going to happen with anything, whether it's big like a presidential election or something small. We don't know, because things can change in a heartbeat. Completely. And that's why that quote of planting your apple tree. It's like, we can't live in the future in the doom and gloom of, why bother, because this is going to happen. or this is going to happen, that doesn't happen, then you're crushed. So live in the now, plant that apple tree, because you may get to enjoy them. And if not, someone else will. And isn't that,
Exactly.
we're connected.
It's such a choice, right? It's such an intentional way of living life,
Yeah.
and such a conscious way of living life, is to, regardless of what is going on around me in the world, I'm still going to plant fruit as much as I possibly can in every single given day.
Exactly.
And what does that look like for you? And then maybe I'll share, what does it look like for you to plant an apple tree?
I think for me, it's the more I'm present, the more I listen to others and see beneath that surface. So it's really helping others be seen and heard, and myself being seen and heard, because I feel that's how we heal, is validating another's experience. It doesn't mean you agree with it. I'm not saying, oh, you just let this happen, or no, it's in the here and now. This is who you are in this moment, and how can I best hold that space for you so you feel appreciated, you feel seen and heard. Now, can I do this for everyone all the time? No, because sometimes I'm off kilter. So I think we also have to remember, it doesn't mean you're living this every second of every day, because I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I'm checking the results. I have a feeling, and then I notice it rising up, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know what's going to happen. And no matter what happens, I'm still going to live my life the same way that I'm living it right now.
Exactly.
And I'm still going to advocate for marginalized, like I have privilege. I'm a white woman. So let me use that privilege to help and support and continue to do my own inner work. Because if I'm not doing my inner work and I'm advocating from a place of fear, control, and hate, how am I changing anything? I'm just creating more divisiveness. But if I can advocate for another from a place of acceptance, non-duality, and planting that apple tree so future generations, we don't have the racism we have, the systemic, if we can start to break down the systemic racism, whatever it is, that's just what's coming to my head right now. So for me, it's continuing to do my inner work, because honestly, that's where it starts. What about you?
It's beautiful. I think I would ditto what you said. I mean, I want to also emphasize too, like you said, it's not something that we do every single day, or that we're perfect at it. Like, I would love to say I'm Mother Teresa, but I know that I'm not, and I still have my stuff. My stuff still rears its ugly head, and I'm well aware of that.
And it's a gift when it does, right?
Yes, it is a gift. It is a gift. Oh, that was the quote I put yesterday. Yeah. In terms of looking for in every problem, there's an opportunity to see the gift. So for sure.
Doesn't mean we have to like it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But no, I agree with you. I feel like part of planting my apple tree is definitely part of that's been doing my inner work. Also trying to hold space. I feel like that's an area where I could try to work a little more on holding more compassionate space for people, in terms of just loving one another more and being more accepting.
Yeah.
But doing my inner work is a big one. And being a different parent, showing up and being a different parent for sure, is planting my apple tree.
Oh, yeah.
And then more of what we're going to talk about in the next episode is this idea of trying to live my life to the fullest. Just being, here and being present.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and the more, I love that you brought up the parent piece too, because that to me is the ultimate apple tree. Personally, whether you have children or not, because you can influence future generations regardless if you have children or not. So
absolutely,
the more we help children feel seen and heard, the more we look beneath the behavior in the child and see them as they are, see their angst, hold space for that angst, not get trapped in and mirror back more angst, which we do.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I just did it yesterday.
I do it less than I used to. And I'm sure it's much less than you used to as well, because we've been on this journey together. But then they start to learn that the children and the next generation learns feelings aren't scary. They just are. And I can be angsty, and then it moves through me and I realize I can see the both and again. I can see the bigger picture and see the divide that I may or may not have been creating. So then they learn to plant their own apple tree. But if we don't do it ourselves, how can we help future generations plant their own apple tree?
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because in terms of how, children can move through those emotions sometimes more quickly than maybe I can or other adults can. So when like Angela went back to school and on Tuesday and found that all the buildings were boarded up,
right,
including her dorm was boarded up, it was really overwhelming for her to see that.
Sure.
She, grew up in a suburban town, very safe and very safe. There's hardly any crime at all where we live, and, just sheltered, I guess is the word, to then pull up to her living space that has to be boarded up for fear of whatever might happen was triggering to her nervous system, and rightly so.
Sure.
And I got caught up in it, and talk about outcomes. I was not planting an apple tree at all. I went right into, oh my God, like saying to my husband, should we go get her? Should she come home? She shouldn't be, this was like yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Should she, she shouldn't be walking around Boston. It's like, they're going to call in the National Guard, and oh my gosh, and blah, 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 blah. And I rode that train a little bit longer than she did. And then it was so funny. This is hysterical. So that was early yesterday morning. And then maybe 2 or 3 hours later, she called me back and she said, yeah, I met with my advisor to plan my schedule for next semester. And I'm going to go to the gym and work out. And then I'm going to go get my nails done. And then on top of it, she told me she took the tea to go. And I'm like, you're taking the tea right now is probably not the best idea. But she just completely moved on. She had her little fear, and she moved through that emotion, and she just moved through it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you can see that all the time in little kids too, especially when they have their temper tantrums, they'll scream and cry for 5-10 minutes, like uncontrollably. And then all of a sudden, boom, oh, okay, there's a little shiny toy over there. Let me go play.
Right. I always would laugh because, I have twin daughters, for those of you who don't know, and they're in college as well. So they're older, but when they were little, and still now, let's be real, sibling relationships, how they can have this knockdown blowout fight. And then they literally, 2 or 3 minutes later, like everything's fine again. And I just remember watching that when they were little, because I didn't have siblings growing up. I have half siblings, but I didn't know about them until adulthood. So I didn't grow up with siblings.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that relationship in a way from experience. But I just remember watching me like, how are you not still mad at each other?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't grasp it, because to me, I grew up with you're mad and then you hold a grudge for a long time.
Me too.
And there weren't grudges. Literally, they have a knockdown blowout over a toy or something. And then 2 or 3 minutes later, they're playing with the toy together. And it's like, how is this even possible?
Interesting, isn't it? Super interesting.
It is. It is. And so Angela had that experience while you were still stuck.
I was.
So she was the one who helped. She planted her apple tree to help you move through that as well. I mean, here we had all sorts of damage there back with George Floyd and in Madison. And so most of downtown still had some plywood up, and they turned into these beautiful pieces of art. But there was one night it got pretty intense. I can't remember exactly what was going on. I think it was during Kenosha and the Kyle Rittenhouse and all of that. And there was vandalism at my daughter's apartment building. And the scary. Apartment building next door. So those weren't boarding up because they were off the main street. And a window had been bashed, and it was tagged with graffiti and fires literally outside her building. And with this coming up right now, I can't tell you how many times I started a text message, just be safe, don't go outside. And then I would delete, don't send. And a few hours later, I'd start typing it again. delete, don't send, because I didn't want to plant that. That's not the apple tree I wanted to
Yeah.
plant. Because she
Right.
knows when to go outside and when, she can make those decisions and
Yeah.
know, maybe stay in at night or maybe not. I mean, I have to trust.
I know. And trusting is planting an apple tree.
Exactly.
Like putting the trust in. So we can use this metaphor for a whole, it's not just like these big legacies. It's not a big legacy, right?
It's not what
It can be a big legacy, but it can be something simple as changing a behavior on how you show up as a parent, or changing a behavior and how you show up with a coworker or your boss. And maybe you're just a little bit kinder, or you hold the door open for someone.
Exactly.
It can be just little tiny things that all pile up. It's just really about how you want to live your life.
Are you planting your orchard?
Yes.
On the side of the mountain.
Ah, yes. Yes. Write that down.
But I love that you said we're not talking this massive, like, this is what everyone's going to remember you for.
Yeah, no.
Because really, when you think back to your life and you think of the people who have influenced and made you feel whole and complete, I mean, I can think of people who literally, I'm like, they saw me.
Yeah.
In that glimpse. That's not a huge tree they planted. That was a little tree. But it made a huge difference in my life.
It produced a lot of fruit in your life, I'm sure.
Exactly. And so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that's a perfect segue into the next episode as well. So we will continue the conversation more about this for sure. So we're super grateful that all of you joined and listened today or watched us on YouTube. And as always, we appreciate the support. And if you would like to comment or subscribe, we'd appreciate it.
Share with a friend.
Share it with a friend as well.
All right. Go plant an apple tree today.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.